as the foreign investors. Still, we continue to invite foreign investors.
But you also have talked about how important is exporting your goods more than importing goods. You need to be an export-oriented nation, because you talked about that now during your visit to Pakistan and also during other visits. One of the major incentives for attracting investors is also peace. You have fought an insurgency in Malaysia, psychologically and militarily. We have fought 2 wars on terror, very important wars. We've lost tens of thousands of people. How important do you feel has been Pakistan's role in eliminating terrorism and becoming a peace-loving nation?
Quite definitely, Pakistan has to be peaceful and stable if it is going to attract investments domestically as well as from foreign sources. So Pakistan has succeeded in reducing or almost eliminating terrorism in Pakistan, and now it should be able to remain stable. But of course, the people will make demands on the government, and the demands of the people must be attended to, because otherwise the country will not be stable. And when the country is not stable, it cannot grow. It will not attract investments.
All right, sir, for stability also, one thing is very important, that is very common between your leadership and the leadership of our Prime Minister Imran Khan, that is elimination of corruption. How did you achieve that in your country? How did you eliminate corruption in your country? And what advice would you like to give to our leadership in that regard?
I think corruption can really be dealt with if we have the right ethical values. That we reject corruption because it is a crime in the first place. It is, from the religious point of view, it is sinful. And if people have that set of values of rejecting corruption, that will be the most effective way to reduce corruption. So we need to teach people to absorb new ethical values. But at the same time, we have to have laws which will punish people who are involved in corruption. But the most important thing is that the leadership must never be corrupt. Once the leadership is corrupt, then there is no way you can stop corruption.
That is very true, sir. One of the important elements that our current government is working on as well to improve its economic state is promoting tourism. You must have heard of a new policy as far as giving visas to different countries is concerned. We have a lot of places that can be visited by these tourists, and whoever has visited Pakistan so far from abroad has only gone with praise for this country. You also have tourism as a major part of your economy. You generate $22 billion through tourism. What are the factors that are important in your point of view, sir, to promote tourism in a country?
Firstly, of course, the stability and the peace in the country. That is absolutely essential. But we have to have good organization. We have to promote tourism by some incentives. We develop good people who are very skillful in the tourist business. We have to be hospitable. We have to be friendly towards our visitors and provide them with what they need. At the same time, of course, we need to promote all the best features of our country.
How have you found Pakistan during all the times that you've come to our country?
Well, it is fantastic. I feel very comfortable here, and I think you have the ingredients, but for population of 200 million people, the number of tourists, of course, is not compatible with that number. Our ambition in Malaysia is to have 1 tourist per head of population. Now we have 32 million people in Malaysia. We have 27 million tourists a year. So we are creeping up to the number. But of course, we need to put in more effort, because when the figure is big, growth becomes slower.
Now, speaking of the commitment that both countries, that is Pakistan and Malaysia, have, there are a lot of commonalities in the commitments that the current leadership in both countries have. One is to collaborate more closely on issues that affect the Muslim world, especially I would like to talk about Islamophobia and the issues that plague the Muslim world, whether it be Kashmir, whether it be Palestine. We have seen what has happened in Christchurch recently as well. How can one remove that essence of Islamophobia, sir, that exists the world over?
Well, we can look at the attitudes of our critics, but we must also look at ourselves. Have we done anything to deserve that kind of name? If we look at ourselves, there are instances which contribute towards this perception. But if you want to make Islam less hated, we need to find out what wrongs that we have done. Although we like to say we did no wrong, but we have to admit that something has been done which is wrong. We try to eliminate that. At the same time, we need good publicity. We need people who talk sense to explain what Islam is all about, and to say that this is a deviation from the teachings of Islam. Because Islam teaches us not to fight, not to kill each other, not to indulge in violence, but we are not following the teachings of Islam. So if we can explain the religion to the audience, and today we can reach everyone through the internet, through the social media, and also the normal media, we should be able to tell our story and not allow the media to be dominated only by foreign members of countries which have no liking for us.
It's very important in this day and age to understand and to use media properly for the benefit, and also to make people understand that Islam is and has always been a religion of peace. Now, sir, how do you foresee the long-standing and substantial economic, commercial and investment ties between the two countries, and what efforts, in your point of view, could be made to intensify that cooperation?
In the first place, both must want to have greater trade with each other and greater investment by each other's country. We want to do that, and when we want to do that, we must identify the factors that can contribute towards improve relations and improve trade, identification of areas where we can invest, etc. Once we have this information, and also information on the laws, the practices in each other's country, then we can find ways to simplify procedures, bureaucratic procedures, for example, and make it easy for people to trade and to invest.
Speaking of trade, investment, commerce, you look up to Japan and Eastern countries as role models. What are the specific points that you have been attracted towards from these countries?
Well, the first thing is they are very hardworking, very diligent, and have a strong sense of shame. In the old days, they used to commit suicide if they failed to do anything. But of course now they don't do that, but to avoid being ashamed of themselves by doing the best they can to fulfill the work that is given to them. They must have good quality work, they must be prompt, they must live up to the expectations.
In 1998, the Southeast Asian region witnessed an economic crisis, but Malaysia was the only country that withstood it. You came out of it through homegrown solutions. What were those homegrown solutions?
No, we were getting advice from the World Bank, from the IMF, but when we study the advice and if we follow them, we will become worse. All they wanted to do was to help us to pay our debts to the banks that we have borrowed from. But when we borrow money from them and pay our debts, we still borrow money from them. Now we are indebted to IMF and the World Bank. It's not a solution. We want to find a solution where we will be able to handle things ourselves without having to borrow from these countries. So what we did was to fix the exchange rate, because we identified the crisis was due to currency traders devaluing our currency. By selling our currency, which they didn't have, they sold our currency a lot in the market. And you know, as usual, when the supply is big, the value goes down. So our currency was depreciating. And when currency depreciates, we become very poor. So in order to stop them from currency devaluing our currency, we decided that we will not accept any devaluation by them. We fix the exchange rate and we guarantee that we will make available money at the exchange rate that we fix. So they cannot devalue our currency, they cannot dispose of our currency. They have to come to our currency, and the rate is fixed. It's 3.8 per US dollar.
How long did it take you to come out of that crisis in 1998?
Well, it began in 1997. And by end of 1998, we were able to come up with something that will stop the currency trading.
All right, mashallah, that is wonderful news, and I hope we can also learn from these practices, as has been cited by our Prime Minister Imran Khan. Now, sir, speaking of countries, defense is very important for any country. We need to defend ourselves from elements from inside and from outside that plague our country. You and Prime Minister Imran Khan last November, when he visited Malaysia, had reaffirmed the importance of a memorandum of understanding on the defense cooperation, and you look forward, of course, to the 13th Joint Committee on Defense Cooperation that will be held later this year. How important is the defense cooperation between the two countries, sir?
Very important. What we notice is that Muslim countries have got no capacity to produce their own weapons. They're always dependent upon importing their weapons or buying their weapons from other countries. And because of that, they become dependent on those countries for the defense of their country. But what we should do, of course, is to be able to provide ourselves with the defense weapons that is needed for the defense of our country. But that requires huge volume. Malaysia certainly doesn't have the volume. We have only 32 million people. You have 200. And of course, if we add together, the market becomes bigger, the need becomes bigger, and therefore it becomes possible for us to go into industries which require huge investments.
You've been the defense minister in the past. You've also been the education minister, sir. How can educational ties, in your point of view, sir, because you have vast knowledge on this issue as well, how can educational ties be improved between Pakistan and Malaysia? And how do you see this close cooperation in the education and the training sector as critical elements of the next phase of this important relationship between Pakistan and Malaysia?
You must know what you need for your country. If you want to industrialize, but we don't teach people engineering and technology, we cannot industrialize. So education must be made to fit in with the progress and development of the country. Whatever area that is required, we must fit education to that area. Today, it is all about IT and knowledge-based technology. So we must teach our people to do that, both in terms of theory as well as in terms of practice. We have to have the skills to fill in the new jobs required, because we are going to change the country into this fourth industrial revolution.
Part of the fourth industrial revolution is also the telecom. You've signed 3 MOUs with Pakistan as far as the telecom industry is concerned. You've also signed 1 in the automobile industry, your Proton Car. Tell us a little bit about that, because that was a very interesting concept that I saw coming out of Malaysia that Pakistan can also benefit from.
We realized that in order to industrialize, we must have engineering capability. If you manufacture a car, you learn a lot about manufacturing, about engineering. So we can have new engineering business. So when we build a car, we need about 4,000 parts, all of which are provided in using different materials, different way of producing. So if you can master the manufacture of a motor car, you will learn a lot about engineering, about manufacturing, and that will contribute towards industrialization of your country. So we bring in the car, a national car we call it, and because of the need for us to learn how to produce a car, we now can produce other manufactured products as well.
All right, sir. It's very important for true brotherly nations like Malaysia and Pakistan to foster the ties, to strengthen the cooperation and the relationship that exists. Are there some sectors that still remain as far as forging that unity is concerned? Do you feel there are some lacunas as far as this cooperation between Malaysia and Pakistan is concerned that could be filled up in the months and years to come?
Well, one of the things that is important is, of course, the friendship between two leaders, the leaders of the country.
And that we saw, sir.
Yeah, and that is very important, because then we talk the same language. We understand the same problem and the same ambition for our countries, and on that basis we can exchange information and we can tap all the resources available in both countries. We know that Pakistan has got a lot of natural resources and also manufactured products. So do Malaysia, and maybe we can complement each other.
All right. Speaking of complementing each other, I know that you love Pakistan. I know that the feeling is vice versa. We in Pakistan love you as a leader and love the Malaysian people as well, because there's that certain warmth that emanates between the two peoples when they meet each other, sir. What is the message that you'd like to give to the people of Pakistan through PTV?
Well, although we love each other, as you say, but on the people-to-people contact, it is still not satisfactory, which means that we should encourage tourism between the two countries. We would like to see more Pakistanis come to Malaysia and more Malaysians come to Pakistan. Then, of course, they will develop friendship and knowledge of each other. At the same time, I think if we are educating our people, we will need to exchange scholars or even to send scholars to each other's country so that they are educated in the same institution and therefore they know each other, and when they are later involved in business, they know whom to meet and whom to partner with.
We look forward to that partnership, to that enhancing of relationship, as you very well said, between our two brotherly countries, and we look forward to more visits between the leaders of our two countries, because it's very important also to improve on that relationship, because political and high-level visits improve on that. And we hope to see also all these Malaysian entrepreneurs and business leaders investing in Pakistan, as inshallah our business leaders will be investing in Malaysia as well. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of this very exclusive interview of the Prime Minister of Malaysia, His Excellency Mahathir bin Mohamad. I'd like to end with 2 phrases, Excellency, that I learned just before the interview in your language. The first is Pakistan sayang tun Mahathir, and the second is Persahabatan Malaysia Pakistan terus berkekalan. Thank you very much, sir. I hope that this friendship, this cooperation, this love that both leaders of Pakistan and Malaysia, that the peoples of the two countries and the industries of both countries have for each other, fosters, develops, grows with time. Thank you for your time, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of this show. Allah Hafiz. And Excellency, thank you very much.